A mom scolded her kid for watching the same cartoon on repeat. It's like prediction sends our brain a signal that we're in control. Our whole day is full of repetition. Ever notice that? We expect a 5-year-old to focus on something for 10 minutes continuously without a break. We need to recognize the nature of childhood. You're hearing my voice from a party where a mom scolded her kid for watching the same cartoon over and over. You see, rewatching the same cartoons is a behavior that pretty much all kids do. Every single one of them does it. A kid might love a show and watch it 50 times, and that's totally normal. This simply goes back to how childhood naturally works. See, when a kid already knows what's coming up in the next scene, they feel safe and secure. It feels like having control over things, and that brings them calmness, a feeling of security, and a sense of power. That's exactly why they do this. We adults experience this many times too, like we really love to predict things. Prediction sends our brain a message that we're in control of things. You know what I mean? That's exactly why so many people go and get their fortunes told. That's why so many people follow the news. And that's also why so many adults turn to various methods and strategies just to get a better idea of what might happen in the future and feel a sense of control over it. Politically, security-wise, or in many other ways, you name it. This is how our brain is wired. We want to feel like we truly have control over things. Like things are in our hands and we can predict them. Now scale this down to a very tiny, small level and you get this ends up being kids rewatching the same cartoons. But know this, we do the same thing on a larger scale as parents ourselves. Second reason, repetitive tasks give us a comforting sense of calm and actually trigger the release of dopamine in our brains. Our whole day is full of repetitive tasks. Have you noticed that? Every morning you wake up and do a bunch of repetitive things. That's just how our brain works. It's the same for kids. They love it when you sing the same lullabies to them, read the same books over and over. Why? Because the very act of repeating things actually calms them and triggers dopamine release. That's exactly why we, as child psychologists, always recommend having a consistent routine for your child. Having a routine isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing. We tell adults the same thing. Have a routine in life. Every morning when you wake up, start with one thing, then move on to the next and then the next, keeping a routine, a smooth flow throughout your day. Even if you don't try to build this routine, you already have a default one. But I want you to notice that this cycle of repetition is something we all go through throughout our lives. Throughout our lives on a large scale, but when our kid wants to watch something on repeat, we jump on them right away. Third reason, probably the most important. You see, kids' attention spans are really limited. We expect a 5-year-old to focus on something continuously for 10 whole minutes because their attention span is extremely limited. But parents often don't notice this. When they see their child playing for about 10 minutes, then getting up, either in the middle or right after, and moving on to something else, they assume something is wrong, when in reality, that behavior is completely normal. So how does this relate to rewatching cartoons? See, when a child watches a long cartoon, say one that lasts about an hour, their focus naturally drifts in and out. They might space out for a moment, get lost in their own thoughts, then come back into the cartoon again. And this cycle of attention keeps repeating itself. That's exactly why every single time a child replays a cartoon, they might notice brand new, interesting details each and every time. Why? Because the cartoon is long, engaging, and full of little surprises. If you notice, kids are actually more drawn to these longer cartoons that last a while and keep their attention. Not the short little ones that usually wrap up completely in just 5 or 10 minutes. Another reason, the child relates to the characters in that cartoon. What we often overlook is that our kids have imaginary friends and we don't really notice it. Now, those imaginary friends become the cartoon characters. For example, my Hosna's imaginary friend is Luca. Luca, who lives both in the water and on land. When we went on vacation and got on a boat, Hosna looked for Luca, thinking if she called him, he'd pop out of the water. Me and her dad held our hands like this, leaning over and calling out together, "Luca, sea boy, where are you?" You know what? Kids end up watching a cartoon over and over again because they really relate to the characters, seeing them almost like themselves. Imaginary friends. They love them so much. He loves them way too much and wants to feel a stronger connection with them. Final point. Our kids, my dear, have limited interests, and what they like is usually a very small range. I mean, think about it. If you ask an adult, what's your favorite food, favorite snack? They might go ahead and list 10 different things. But if you ask a kid the same thing, they usually give just a few repeated answers. Ice cream, or maybe some juice or chocolate milk, or some candy or their favorite fruit, you know they don't go beyond that limited range. Because kids have limited interests, and it's exactly the same when it comes to cartoons. We compare their limited interests to our unlimited ones, and honestly, that's not fair at all. We need to recognize the nature of childhood. Now write in the comments, does your child really not have limited interests? I'd love to hear your experiences about whether they like repetitive things in the comments.